Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for today's webinar on bridge site design. I'm Erin. I'm just going to do a very quick introduction to the webinar and then pass it over to Dave Mills, one of our support engineers, who's going to take you through bridge site design. First, a couple pieces of housekeeping. Please, engage with us throughout the presentation using the Q&A section of your GoToWebinar panel. We will address these questions at the end of the webinar. If you're watching this video after the fact, which many of you do, if you have a question on the webinar, please feel free to email our support team. They'd be happy to answer it. You can email them at support@softree.com. Additionally, certificates of attendance are going to be coming to you through the link in the follow-up email that comes approximately 1 hour after the webinar completes. So let's take a look at our agenda. Today's seminar is going to cover techniques for bridge site design in RoadEng. We are going to talk about terrain modeling, contouring, and the generation of profiles related to bridge site plans. We'll also include how to put those into an output sheet. And I think you're going to see us work with lots of different terrain files. So a lot of focus on how to put them in the background, how to work with them. And yeah, pretty exciting seminar, likely to go a little bit over time. So, please bear with us. Lots of great content to cover. And with that, over to you, Dave.
Hello, everybody. I don't know if that sound came through clearly for you, but it certainly did not. Yes, we got a comment that our audio was not working before. Please let me know if it's working now. I should be, let's just make sure you're looking at my screen. There we go. Okay. I didn't want to show you that right away. Let's go back to the terrain module. Better than before. Excellent. Okay. So that said, my internet connection is also working from home, and it has been dropping out this morning, so let's just hope it sticks for another half an hour. Okay, when we post the video, we'll re-record the introduction so you can hear what Erin was trying to say. Okay, we've got a surface here. This is a creek channel. Pretty obvious by looking at the 3D window. And the first thing I want to talk about is how do you get such a nice shape from actually a very small number of points? So let's talk about how one would survey this. Now it's quite common and kind of straightforward to survey along a line and take cross sections. And our survey map module allows you to do that with low-level instruments, compass, Clino, and cloth tape or other chain. And of course, you can do that kind of survey with a total station as well. And when you've got LiDAR data, you don't have to worry about stuff like that. You just get lots of points. So you might be tempted to just walk along the proposed road and take cross sections. That would require a lot of points to generate the surface as accurately as this has. If you look carefully at the survey data, let's just get rid of the contents of the, let's get rid of the contours. There we go. So that's the survey data. And there really aren't a whole lot of points. There's actually only 188 points here altogether. And, but they're organized very carefully into breaklines. So this is a breakline. It's an escarpment along the top of the bank of the creek. This is more or less, well, it's labeled as toe, so we can say that that's the toe of the bank. And then here's the water itself. The middle, of course, is the center line of the water course, the lowest point, the thalweg. And we've got similar going up the other side. So if you're surveying a water course, those are your natural break lines. And there's no road in this survey, but if there was a road, there would be natural break lines there too. Road edge, shoulder edge, toe of fill, top of cut, things like that. There's a few just random points like these ones. And these ones look to be benchmark points. And these ones out here. So with a combination of carefully chosen breakline points and a few extra points in between, we've managed to create a shape that really does look like the channel of a stream. So there's that bench going across the top. There's another one there, and there's the toe of the channel. This is the flood area between those two yellow lines, and then of course there's the actual water channel itself. So how would you survey that using low-level instruments? Well, you would probably walk over to a point like this and look over and see if you could see any interesting points and survey them, and it might look something like this. I'm just going to put a little survey representation in the background here. There it is. There we go. And that should appear in my 3D too. So let's just look at that in 3D. Update. There it is. Okay. So we set up here. We survey these key points. And of course, the important thing is that when you're picking up all the points on this yellow line, you tag them as being toe left or right or north or south. And similarly, you need to tag the ones on the other side too. You can do this with pretty much any total station setup. You can also do it with our software. Let me just show you a survey map notes file, which is set up in a similar manner. So this is our survey map module, and you can create traverses here. A typical traverse for a road center line would be a center line with side shots. Do I have one here? Let me just leave that for now. This is a survey done with the same software, but we're set up here to do a bunch of radial shots and record labels. So there's a label at the end of a radial shot. They should all have a point code in here so that we could connect them up later. And a radial shot is, let's just scroll to the bottom here. There's your radial shot point type, and azimuth, distance, slope, etc. That defines a point. You can take as many radial shots as you want from the same setup point, and then you do a fourth shot and it jumps ahead to the next point. So there's the next setup point. And then we take a bunch more radial shots and so on until you get to the end of your survey. Right. So that's kind of how this was put together. And let me just show you what it looks like if you turn off the break lines. The break lines are key. If you use this kind of surveying, you need to recognize what is a break line, and you need to tag it in your properties as a break line. So if I select all the features and turn off the break line property and then rebuild the surface, you'll see it changes quite radically. So the first thing you'll notice is that there are some areas here where the channel seems narrower than it was before. And if we look in the plan window and turn on the triangles, you can see what's happening. There's a triangle going from this break line way up here, this point way up here, all the way down to the edge of the creek, and it's skipping over this break line. It's passing over it, so it's actually covering it. Let's look at that like this. So that point right there is where is it? It's in there somewhere. This is a really common problem. You can't find your place on the 3D and you know where you are on the plan. If you turn on track mouse in the 3D options, it becomes quite obvious because you can move the mouse and you can see it. There's my current point. So as you can see in the 3D window, there's that triangle going down and connecting over here, and it's skipping right over the break line there and hiding it, covering it up. So back to the way the thing was before. That doesn't happen. The triangles are not allowed to cross break lines, and just turn them on again briefly. So we don't get a triangle crossing this break line here. We rather get a triangle that goes along it and honors that elevation. And so the surface looks good. Right, next step. Let's talk about building a bridge in here. So first thing I'm going to do is jump over to the location module, and I'm going to display the same surface but with a bridge design on it. So here's our location module. In the plan view, we've got an alignment going across the creek, the same surface in the background. And the way I put in a bridge, I'll just take it out and put it back in again, is using the assignments. Whoops, wrong button. Assign by, no, that was the right button. Yeah, okay, so I'm using the default template. And that's what my road looks like if I just fill right across the creek. Obviously, I'm creating a big fill over top of my creek. Not a good idea. Let's put a bridge in. Station 64 to 78. So I will assign a bridge template in that zone. And I created a little bridge here with a log bridge in it. And oh, now I put the bridge everywhere. Oops. Let's just undo that. Go back to here and put the log bridge in from a station range 64 to 78. Never remember the numbers, that's why I put in that little label. Okay. Right, okay. Now this bridge, I don't know if you've seen this kind of bridge in our software before. You can always use the BR bridge, no cut fill. That template always exists. You can't delete it, and it does nothing. It just leaves a point. But if you like, in our template editor, you can create bridge templates. We even have a few bridge components in the eLibrary, which I downloaded, and here it is. There's one which is just a simple rectangle. There's one with a log in it. That's the one I used. There's another one which is a kind of a beam shape. And if you cut and paste those components, you can build a bridge template. And the important thing about a bridge template is that there's no fill underneath. So if I hatch all fill areas, I see nothing underneath here. By the way, there's a little glitch in this bridge stringer. If you change it so that the log hangs out to the side a little bit, it actually starts filling out here, which is clearly not what we want. So watch out when you're building templates that you turn on all your hatching so that you can see if there's issues like that. That's here, hatch all cut, hatch all fill, or hatch an area that you've clicked on. Really useful tool. Okay, and the important thing about that bridge, oops, the important thing about that bridge is that it doesn't create volume underneath, so I don't have to worry about counting volumes incorrectly. You can turn the volume for the whole thing off if you want, right here. There. That would turn off volumes for the log and this cross-section and so on. Okay, so if you are getting volumes, you don't want them, just there's the place to turn it off there. I'm going to skip out of here and go back to where we were. Right, so I spent some time when I put this together, designing a profile, and oh, bridge symbol is not turned on. Oh, that's because I put in the log bridge. Yeah, it doesn't automatically create the bridge symbol. Anyway, we can see where the bridge is in the mass hall diagram here. I wonder if I turn off, let's try that. Let's just turn off volumes for that template. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, there you go. Then it puts in the bridge symbols for me. Nice. Okay. I've created a bridge in the location module, and this bridge has some properties that might not be ideal. First of all, the cross sections, all the cross sections, are perpendicular to the center line. That includes the bridge abutment. And the bridge abutment is abrupt. It goes from fill to bridge. So this abutment is a vertical wall. Now that's not a very accurate representation of a real bridge, so I'd like to change I'd like to change the way that I generate the volumes and the shape of the bridge, and then take a look at some cross sections. To do that, I need to move into the terrain module. So location is a great first step. It may be all you need depending on how accurate you want to be. It basically tells you where the bridge is, what the profile looks like, what the plan looks like, what the cross sections look like, and that may be all you need. If you want to refine your bridge design and make more of a site plan, then you need to go into the location, from the location to the terrain and work in here. So I think the first and simplest thing to do is just to note that once you've got a surface in terrain, you can create cross sections or profiles just by drawing a feature, and then you can draw on them if you want. So what have I got now? I've actually got a couple of cross sections in here already. This one is the Thalweg feature, and it's running down the center of the creek. This one is the center line of the proposed road, and it's draping on the ground. So if I wanted to, I could actually draw my bridge in here. Now I don't know what elevation I need it at, so why don't I export that from the location module? So file save as. From location, you can always export to terrain, and if you do that, I'm going to export this thing. You're prompted with a lot of options as to what you want to export. So I'm going to export only the center line, the edge of subgrade, REL, RAR, and nothing else. I can include cross sections. I can even create a surface model if I want. But for now, I'm just going to export the road edges and the center line just to show you what that looks like in the other model. Okay, that's ready to go. Now back over to the terrain module. Let's import that. So home ribbon, insert file, and there it is. I just created it. So there are those features. Now I can't see them in this profile right now. In fact, why don't I show you how to make a profile? So first of all, in the plan window, I can select a feature that I want to be the profile feature. And there's two right here. One of them is the center line that I just imported. That one? Or is it that one? No, it must be this one because it's not selected. This is the one I just imported. This is the one that's already in the model. Doesn't matter which one I choose. Once you've got a feature selected, and this one is draped on the model, so that's the ground line, you can create a new profile. Just click on the profile button if there aren't any, or on this little create new one if there's one already. There's a profile window. Now it contains the How about going this way? It contains the draped ground line, but it doesn't show me this line here, the center line of the designed road. So I'm going to add it. First of all, I selected it in the plan window. That was actually smart because when you go into the profile options, projected, intersected, you can just say get the selected and it adds it in there. Or you can click on here and you can scroll through and find the features of interest. Like there's the RER and REL if I wanted to put those in too. Well, that's the only one I want for now, so I'm just going to turn that on. Intersected features, well, that would be typically the creek, for example. So let's add one of those as well. And that was called Thalweg, begins with T. So I type T and there it is, double click to select it. Okay, and it's in the intersected features. Okay, okay. Now the intersected feature is kind of hard to see because it doesn't have a very good symbol on it. So I'm just going to select it here. You can see it turned pink there. If you can squint your eyes, it's pretty small. And change the symbol for the Thalweg. I'll change it to a little cross and make sure that I set the profile as well as the plan. And, oh, didn't work. What did I do wrong? Oh, it says none. Damn it. That's better. Okay, anyway, there's a little cross there now. Just a minute. How about we use this one? Where? Apply. Apply. It's jumping up to none every time I do that. This is really weird. Well, let's try selecting the profile window. That's done it in the plan. And that's done it in the profile. Okay, a little glitch there with the also set plan, also set profile checkbox. Better look into that later. Right, so there's the creek, there's the road, there's the ground. The ground is the draped feature. They're all showing in the same cross section, and I can even draw in there. But first of all, let me change one more line type. I've selected the draped feature that's lying on the ground, and I'm just going to change its line type here, not symbol, line type. Okay, and you can see right here, this is kind of where the bridge is supposed to start. I can maybe draw in what I think the abutment should look like. When you're in the profile window, you can create a new feature and be careful to set elevations on. And in this case, I don't want this feature to become part of my background terrain. So I'm just going to leave the modeled check off and I'm going to draw it with the mouse. And maybe I'll put a little sill on there and go like so. And there I can put my log in. Let's do the same on the other side. So this is, as you can see, we're kind of making a forest road design here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's high enough. Let's move that up a little bit. So you can edit features in the profile window. Notice that they appear along the fence feature. That's the center line in this case in the plan. So you don't really see it, but if you look in the 3D, you can see it. There's my little feature that I just drew. Okay. And now I'm going to draw another feature. I'm going to draw the beam. And of course, when you're drawing things in the well, it doesn't matter whether you're drawing, whether you're drawing in plan or profile, you can change colors, and you can hatch, you can close. There we go. Now I've created a long section here that shows the kind of fill material I expect to see underneath my road. I didn't pay a lot of attention to slopes or elevations or anything. I just drew this in by freehand. But features that you've created can be edited. The coordinates feature is not available in the profile window, but if I select the plan window, it is, and you can actually type in coordinates here if you want. So, and the other thing you can do in the profile window is you can display labels. So if I shift click and select those two things, I could turn on, for example, modify selected feature labels. That's also up here in the feature tool labels button. And just for the selected feature, I'm going to turn on grades in the profile. There they are. Okay. So I might look at that and say, oh, you know what, 100% is okay there, but this is a bit too steep. So let's select that feature and move it out like that. There's 97, close enough for me. Now, you may have seen, if you've been with Softree's RoadEng for a while, one of our older videos that shows how to create abutments in 3D. And that's what I want to show you next, but I'm going to skip over it really fast because we don't have a whole lot of time. So I'm going to just show you that there are videos in our YouTube site, Softree YouTube. And if you wanted to find all the bridge videos, you would just Google Softree YouTube, and then whatever you're interested in. I just did this recently, so it's coming out with Softree YouTube Bridge site, and there they are. So the 2017 one has a three-dimensional ballast wall that's placed in the creek bed. And this one, 2018, is all about just drawing and grading. So those two are pretty good. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to quickly show you some 3D objects I created using the grading tool to represent abutments on the south and the north side of this little creek. Okay, let's start with this one. So this is a graded object. The sill, there we go. There's the back of it. This is the road side. There's the bridge side, and this is where the beams are going to sit on the sill. So the beams are going to go across like this, whether they're logs or concrete or steel, and they're going to sit on the sill. So this is a concrete sill that I created and moved in here, and then I selected the bottom of it. There's the bottom, and I graded it out to create this little blob of fill that is kind of the first part of the bridge. Then I drew some features in here, and I used the existing road edges that I brought in from location module, and then I modified them. And this one, I just tied it off to the, you can see that I put in the background, let's look at the plan window options. In the background, I put the sill in there. And that's actually a merged surface. So the original ground plus the sill that I created in the previous one. And then I drew this feature here, which started out as an export from location, and I tied it off right to the edge of the sill feature, and then I graded it out. On the other side, I actually drew the lines down and over like that, and I was very careful about setting the elevations correctly, putting in break lines, and making this three-dimensional object that looks like fill with a step in it, ready to put my beams on there. And again, I graded them out using the terrain modeling grading tool. So I'm unfortunately don't have time to show you all that. There's the grading operation happening again, showing me the cut and fill, and this side, the north side here, has quite a large amount of cut and a little bit of fill at the end. And you can see it in 3D there. Okay, so what I've got on the hard drive now is a bunch of terrains. I've got a terrain that represents the original ground. I've got a terrain that represents that sill plus fill underneath it. And I've got this terrain, which represents fill on the north and fill on the south to represent what the road's going to look like. And it's kind of arbitrary how far back you go, because location design does a really good job of modeling everything back here. So, you know, maybe I could have chopped it off there, or even just where it goes into cut. So I've got three terrains that are interesting to me, and I'd now like to draw some cross sections. Here's how I do it. I'm going to open up the original ground terrain, that one. Right back where we started. And then I'm going to add these other terrains in the background. Now, there's kind of two ways to do this. You can do a merge operation and make compound surfaces, or you can leave all these terrains separate, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to add to my plan window background first the ballast itself, or the ballast wall itself, which is sill 2B. And then I'm going to add that one we were looking at just a second ago, sill 3B. Okay, I got my two surfaces. Oh, and while I'm at it, do I want to put in the roadway too? I don't know. I think I might have to bring that one in. Yeah, okay. So there they are. You can see them now. They're in the background. They're in the 3D window too. And well, let's first of all do some work in the 3D window to make it a little better. I'm going to change the 3D window here to show, first of all, transparency, alpha channel less than 255. That's the color of the current triangles. Then I'm going to show the other triangles for the other features with some different colors. So what's this one? This is the, probably should have given better names, but anyway, this is the sill wall, and this one is the fill. There we go. Okay, well that's nice. I can see what's going on in the 3D. Now how do I cut a cross section here? Well, let's go back. I've already got this cross section, and look, I didn't have to do any drawing or any work. All I had to do was bring those surfaces, terrain surfaces, into the background, and they appeared in this cross-section. Remember, this cross-section is the draped ground line under the center line, and it's automatically showing up all the other things. So let's just clean that up a little bit. I'm going to go into my profile options. I don't even need to add the projected intersected. It's got everything I want in there. But I do want to change the colors and line types. So let's take a look at the background. Okay, that's the sill wall. Let's change its line to a different color. So I'm going to change the sill wall to the same color it is in the, I think it was orange. That'll do. Okay, and then this one, it's yellow in the 3D. I don't know if yellow is a good color with a white background, so maybe I'll change that to red. And finally, the format of the ground itself, I'm going to change. I did that before, right? That was just a profile, select feature, change line type. Why don't I draw in the beam again? And I'm going to unlock the scale here for a minute while I'm working. Draw the beam in. So there's the sill that I made by creating a fancy looking fill on the left, and there's the sill wall on a pile of dirt on the right, and I'm going to put a beam across there. New feature. Don't make it part of the surface. In case I click on that recalculate terrain button, I do not want the beam to show up. Okay, and I can draw it. Oops. If I click in the middle, it creates a point in the middle. If I click off the end, it creates a point on the end, and I can use that for my vertical. I'm probably going to have to put something on top of it so it doesn't go all the way up to the top. And like so, and then I can just quickly close it. There we go. And I can hatch it if I want to. Another thing you can do, you can draw features, you can hatch them. Where did that turn up, by the way, in my plan window? Because it is in the plan window. It turned up in the center. And if you look in 3D, you can see it. There it is, the dashed line there. That's my beam. Okay, back to the profile. How high is this? Well, I can measure it. The profile window is not as nice as the plan window for measuring. You got to go into view, no, profile, home. There it is. Measure mode. And oops, I'm editing the feature while I'm measuring. I can hit escape to get out of that. It's showing me that's about 3.6 meters. Okay, I'd like to put a label on there, so I'm going to create a new feature. I'm going to call it dimension, and it's again going to be a 3D feature. Going to draw it with the mouse and put it in there from the ground up to the beam. Try to make it vertical, and then I'm going to change it to be a double-headed arrow. That one. Don't bother setting the plan, not necessary. Okay. Well, that's good, but how long is it? So again, feature tools, labels. This only modifies the selected feature, and I'm going to turn on length. There we go, 3.5 meters. If I'm careful, I can make the thing vertical with the mouse. I can also make it vertical by editing the coordinates and making sure that the X, Y are identical top and bottom. There we go. There's my Finally, I probably want to set the scale to be something sensible like that, and then lock the scale. So I created one nice cross section, and that took a little longer than I was hoping, so I'm going to finish off quickly by showing you a finished multiplot. So yeah, I've created a cross section here. I can create another cross section. Let's do that quickly. I'm going to just draw a feature and make a cross section. So home, I'm now in the plan window. I'm going to create a new feature called section. This time I want it to be a draped feature. Again, it will not be part of the surface. If I re-tin, because the elevation is draped, it's picking up the elevation from the surface. And I'll draw it, where should I draw it? How about across here? Now it turns out you can snap to background features. So if I turn on Sil2B properties snapping, and then draw in here, I can snap it onto there. And same over here, snap it onto there. And it picks up the elevation of the top of the sill, I hope. Is that right? No, it's draping on the ground, so it can't pick up the elevation. But it does get the right shape here. Now let's just make it a little bit longer. I can either draw a line out here and try and make it continuous, or I can just make it a little bigger using move size. So I'll just do this. And same out here. Oops, move it up a little bit. Oh, that's rotate. Don't want to do that. The mouse tells you what you're going to do. That says I'm going to make it bigger this way. That says I'm going to make it bigger this way. That says I'm going to rotate it there. I don't want to rotate it. I do want to move it up a bit. Oops, down a bit. Yeah. Okay, now it's sitting right on top of the ballast wall. Let's take a look at it. So if I just click on the profile button here, I go to my profile I was in before. But if I click on create new profile, it's a little down arrow, it creates a brand new one. There's toolbars for the, ribbon buttons for that too. I always like those permanent ones down here. Okay, and there it is. And again, I probably want to set up the scale to be the way I want it, and probably want to lock the scale. Yeah, it's good. And I could do all the same things in here if I wanted to draw more features or display some other features that are in here. Those are all in the projected intersected, or I can draw a new feature, whatever makes sense. If I wanted to hatch this thing here, I would have to trace it and hatch the drawing of the trace. So it's a little bit tricky. Right, so I've got a couple of interesting cross sections, and I've got a 3D and I've got a plan. I could put all those in a multiplot. So here's a multiplot window. Let's add a new plan window and a new section window. Profile 1, 2, 3, whichever one I want. And you get the idea. I can move them around, put them where I want, add other stuff. But rather than go through that process, which could take even more time, I'm going to just open the finished file. And that is called, that's the last thing I did, this one, Sil4. That's the cross section with the or dimension label in it. By the way, it's pretty easy to add a new dimension now. I can just copy that feature I don't know if Control C, Control V works in the profile window. Let's try it. Control C, Control V, and Control M. I'll move it over here. No, it didn't copy it. It's moving the same one. But if I what about duplicate? There it is. It's selected. And duplicate. Ah, that worked. Yeah, there we go. I've got another one. And I could even put it somewhere else. I could make one of these that has a slope on it too if I wanted. And I can, of course, move it around. Okay. Yeah, so I've got a cross section. I want to see it in the MultiPlot, and I made a MultiPlot that has everything in it. Unfortunately, in the terrain module, the MultiPlot conveniently forgets every single time what the print setup was. In fact, what it's doing is it's looking up the default printer on Windows. So my Windows setup has this printer, letter, portrait. So I'm going to change that. Right. So there's a MultiPlot with a rectangle with some text in it, 3 cross sections, a plan, and a 3D window. That brings us to the end of the demonstration. And do we have any questions? Looks like a few. Aaron.
Hey, Dave, hopefully you can hear me.
We can now, yes.
So we do have some questions. I know we've gone a little bit over time, kind of thinking we should adjust our webinar length up from half an hour maybe to the hour so we don't feel bad when we hold participants a bit longer. I'm going to pick off 2 or 3 of these questions. So the first one is, hi, thanks for doing this webinar every week. By the way, you're welcome. Their question, is there an easy way to calculate end area between abutments?
End area between abutments. Not quite sure how that, yeah, you're talking about the cross-sectional area in the abutment, I think. In the location module, the areas are all calculated right away. They're just part of the process. If you look at any cross-section and hover, it tells you the cross-sectional area. And in the abutment zone, of course, that's there too. In the terrain module, it's not so simple because what you need to do is create a polygon and look at its area. So for example, if I look at this beam is the best one, I think. Where is the cross section with the beam in it? There it is. Okay, so this thing here has a cross-sectional area as we're looking at it in the profile view, and that area shows up as 0 in the plan, but there's more here. So in the options for this area, you can add and remove various things, and one of the properties you can add is I know it's in here somewhere. Working from home. Okay. Section area. Bingo. Okay, so it's on there. Okay. Okay. And there's the section area, 17 square meters. There. Now, if I looked at a different cross section and drew a rectangle or any other shape, I could get its area. But I have to draw it because other features don't have a closed polygon and they don't have a well-defined area. Next question.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Let's tackle one more, and then just a reminder to anybody who's still, has a question, hasn't submitted it yet, please feel free to keep submitting them, even though we don't get to your question. That doesn't mean we won't answer it. We'll follow up after the fact with an email. So one last question. Is there an easy way to get offsets to survey control points for laying out construction.
Yes, yes. Basically, again, location has got that stuff nailed. You know, you can generate a table of offsets to any point code at any cross section. In the terrain module, what you would do is you would either draw a feature and generate lengths and therefore offsets, or, and I think this might be better, just generate some points, some XYZ points. So anything on here can become an XYZ coordinate. You just have to select it. There it is. But you can also export features to somewhere in here is a simple ASCII, there it is, ASCII text. So what we can do is we can select features that are of interest and export. This doesn't make sense. That's from an old export I did earlier. Okay, that's good. So easing northern elevation, there's your coordinates. Comment if you like, if there's one on the point. So I could export, I could create points that are important, like the top of the sill here, or the bottom of the sill there, and those points could be exported. I could probably want to name them specially so it's easy to select them and then export them as coordinates. Offsets, not so easy. You could generate offsets from a spreadsheet after the fact, but yeah, maybe the best way would be to draw a line, kind of like a dimension line, except it would have an offset length on it. You'd have to be careful to draw it perpendicular, which is not trivial. If I draw a feature along the alignment, like so, I can make it perpendicular by rotating it. Which is where? Which is under transformation. Yeah, there we go. Rotate, translate, turn that thing on, and rotate by 90 degrees. So that line is now perpendicular, and I can move it around. And if I'm careful, oops, not to do that. If I'm careful to just move it or change its length, yeah. When you go into the coordinates to modify things, if you go into survey mode, you can keep as and just change the length there. So there it's a little bit longer. Anyway, the length of that thing, as we've seen with labels, can be displayed. That's the beginnings of that. I think the main thing is that you can generate coordinates for any point. Hopefully that's what you need.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. And thank you all for staying with us. We went a little bit over time per usual. The video recording as well as actually we might share out the answers to some of these other questions because they are quite interesting, looking at how we work with HECRAS, wetted perimeter, armor extends. Some very interesting questions. I'm sorry we didn't have time to answer all of them, but please stay tuned for the video link and the email afterwards. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. And yeah, be sure to check out the rest of our webinar calendar up at softree.com. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Erin.
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for watching another Softree webinar. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel below or tell us that you liked the video. Thanks for watching.